Hi everyone. I'm making this video to talk about two aspects of Canvas to follow up on our conversations about grading earlier today. So one concern students had, and I'm on the 109X course shell, but the same things would apply to the 1X course shell. One concern students had was about this credit or no credit based on, and what's that based on, and does that show my grade in the class? So the only way I could figure out to mute this, I've got a call in to IRT for some more information, but you'll notice if you choose the arrow, it just says you can move the total. So the only way I could figure out to mute this is to mute one of the assignments that you're not using, since when you mute an assignment, it automatically will mute the total and then they won't be able to see it. So you could mute one of the modules that you're not using, and that would effectively keep them from being able to see the total, but they can still see all of the other information for the assignments that are not muted. So that's what I would recommend at this point if you want to keep them from seeing that total to avoid controversy. They're still going to be able to see how they're doing in terms of the class attendance and the online modules, and then you could have some discussion about how those add up to their total grade. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was under assignments. So if you go to assignments, you can see how I set up the grading, and you'll notice that in-class attendance shows as 50% of the total grade, and the other 50% of the total grade is the online modules. If you're in an in-person 1X, I may have modified this so this was 100% of the grade, but we can talk about that or look at that too. So this is only going to include the attendance that you take when they come to class, and so whatever their percentage of attendance is would be half of the grade for a hybrid class. The other half of the grade are those online discussions or modules that you've assigned, and the only things that actually figure into this grade are ones that you've actually assigned and graded. You can see there's a bunch of these that haven't been published, and so those weren't assigned or graded. The one thing that I realized was that if you add anything, it's not going to appear in online modules and discussions. It's actually going to default and add to assignments down here. There were a couple of other things down here earlier. Let me move those back. And then I realized that I had put the midterm and the final assignment down here in another space. And I think the reason that I did that originally was because I figured we needed, these aren't exactly the same as your average online weekly assignment, because we do need to make sure that they've turned in both of these assignments. And I think that's why I put them in a special location so that they would jump out to you as you were grading. But that means that this is 0% of the total, so they're not really getting credit for those modules. So one thing you could do at this point is just to move those up into the online assignments. And then we'll just take special care as we're looking at final grades to make sure that we check off that yes, they've done the midterm, yes, they've done the final exam, because even if they have a good score on everything else, if they haven't completed those two assignments in particular, they can't pass the class. But once you've moved them up, then those will appear in that figure that we were talking about on grades, which was the total for online discussion modules. So let me know if you have questions. Hopefully that clears up a few things. I also expect that we will modify this grading scheme a little bit now that I've got more data from your students to use instead of just using the data I used from that one class to set up the grading scheme. So let me know if you have questions, and I will talk to all of you soon. Thanks.